Hello and welcome back. It's Lois here from Lois and Morgana Davidson Art, and today I'm going to be showing you how I painted this loose summer river scene. This is a photo that I took a while ago. If you want to refer to it, then pause the video here and take a screenshot. I'm just using it as a very rough guide for this loose watercolour painting. Just before we get into the demo, a quick plug for my book, Landscapes in Watercolour, Techniques and Tutorials for the Complete Beginner. It's got lots of tips and techniques and information about equipment, etc., and 10 projects, 5 line and wash and 5 pure watercolour. So if you're interested, then please take a look at the links below. So the first thing that I always do when I'm painting a landscape like this is to simplify the photograph and just pull out the main features and create a very, very simple line drawing. I'm using an HB pencil, keeping my pencil strokes nice and light as I just map out the shape of the hills and the position of the river. If there are any other features such as bushes and trees, then I'll make sure that I get them in roughly the right place. And then, even though it's very simple, this sketch creates a very important roadmap for me to follow as I paint. It kind of keeps me on track really as I put in my watercolour washes. Today I'm using Milford cold press watercolour paper. It's 11 inches by 15 inches or 28 centimetres by 38 centimetres. It's taped to my board with ordinary decorator's masking tape, and my board's at an angle of about 20 degrees. My paper isn't pre-stretched. It'll buckle a bit as I paint, but then it will flatten out as it dries. You can pause the video and maybe take a screenshot of the sketch if you'd like to refer to it. I'm going to be using the wet in wet method to paint the sky. So the first thing I'll do is wet the sky all over with my large wash brush, which is a Princeton Aqua Elite Modeler 1.5 inches. And then I'll use cobalt blue and just put in a nice bright sky with a few wispy clouds. I've laid my board flat now so the sky doesn't run down the page anymore. And I'm just going to use a light value of cobalt blue to start with and to get in the sky reflected in my river. And then I'll deepen the river colour slightly with some Payne's grey. And now it's time to use a light value sap green and put in the distant hills and plains of land. I shall vary up the shades of my distant hills with some raw umber as well, and a little bit of Payne's grey to darken it in places. I'm using a dryer mix, which is less water, in with my Payne's Grey and Sap Green mixture and my size 2 quill brush to put in these middle ground trees over on the left. Putting them in with dryer paint means that they won't wash off of the damp sky or create any nasty marks, and I can begin to work on the riverbank over on this left side too. And then just building up the plains of land, the riverbanks and a hedgerow line using the colours that I've already mixed, just making marks with my brushes to suggest the features rather than painting detail, and then using my palette knife as well to continue to build on that suggested detail. Maybe suggesting a few tree trunks and branches catching the light, and maybe on the far bank some hawthorn tree branches and twigs, maybe the suggestion of a fence. So that's my first layer completely finished. I now need to leave it to dry, and once it's dry I'll continue working into it using the wet on dry method. So here it is, it's dry, and I've lifted my board back up to the angle of about 20 degrees, which is my preferred angle for painting. And I'm putting in a nice bright field in the distance. It could be a canola field or just a really bright spring crop. And it stands out really nicely against the more muted fields and river. I like to use lemon yellow for those sorts of details. I think it stands out really beautifully and works well with the rest of the colours. So I can now start to build up a bit of deeper colour on my river, using cobalt blue, Payne's Grey, and towards the end a touch of green. I'm darkening up some of my hills and fields in the distance slightly, just to make a bit more differentiation between those plains of land. Maybe put a little bit of shadow into the bright yellow field. Not too much, I still want to keep that colour nice and bright. It's just finishing touches now, really. Keeping it nice and loose. Now, I'm not sure about some of the detail, whether I need to put a stronger fence in the front or whether I need to play around with the water a bit more, because I'm not too happy with the water. So I'm going to remove the tape and see how it looks. Removing the tape helps me to see it with fresh eyes, and I can see that I need to maybe darken up some areas around the base of this small stand of trees on the left. So I'm putting in a few stronger tree trunks with Payne's Grey, and I'll put in some darker areas. And I've decided to use my rigger brush to put some fence posts and a fence running along this side of the bank. I think it brings together the rest of the marks and helps to sort of cement the illusion of this hedgerow and riverbank. Making sure that my fence posts get a bit closer together and smaller as they go off into the distance. A few more darks. And I've decided that I'm not that happy with the water. I'm a bit out of practice with painting rivers, and so I'm just going to dive in and try and adjust it, see if I can improve it by smoothing the water out a bit, darkening it up with some Payne's Grey, then adding in a bit more cobalt blue, just to sort of try and get a bit of depth to the water, keeping the brush strokes horizontal. After all, I've got nothing to lose, it's only a bit of paper, and I might just as well see if I can improve that river slightly rather than just dismissing the painting and thinking, it hasn't worked. It's always possible to go in and sort of salvage something if you sort of take a step back and think about what you can do just to improve things. And I think that river water, it's not looking perfect, but it's looking a lot better than it was. I've also learned something about this, that I need to think more carefully right at the beginning of the painting, the planning stage, about doing the water. So you can learn so much from things that don't go right. In fact, you can learn more from that than you can from things that kind of work successfully. So don't worry about making mistakes. It's a really great way of learning, progressing and moving forward. So overall, I think the painting's nice and loose. The water is a little bit overworked, but I think I've brought it back mostly. What I am really pleased with, though, is the hedgerow, the fence, and the distant riverbank. I quite like the plains of land going into the background, but I think my favourite thing is the fence and the hawthorn trees and hedgerow. And so I'm really pleased with the way that went. Even though there are some parts of the painting that are less successful, I've learnt a lot from them, and that's what these practice pieces are all about. If you enjoyed the video or found it useful, then please click on the thumbs up button, and why not consider subscribing to our channel if you haven't already. And thank you so much to everybody that supports us on Patreon. And if you'd like advert-free versions of these demos, then you can hop over to Patreon and join the $4 or £3.50 tier. And thank you so much to everybody that supports us on Patreon. We really do appreciate you. I'll see you again soon. Take care and happy painting. Bye.